But in those first few seconds, when you open up your mouth, you got 4 seconds.
4 seconds, guys, in case you didn't hear. 4 seconds.
Let me tell you what they are.
Welcome back to Aura. I'm Kyle, and in this video, we're reacting to the one, the only Wolf of freaking Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, not Leonardo DiCaprio from the movies, like the actual guy the Wolf of Wall Street movies were based on. And in this video, he goes over what separates average closers from world-class closers, and one of the greatest things you could learn to close that higher level, and that is tonality. He even dips a little into body language as well. So super fire video. Also, if you're in sales looking for a better offer, we have 7-figure, 8-figure businesses currently hiring right now. We never charge sales reps. So if you want to check out the opportunities that are currently hiring because you're looking for a new role, link in the description. And without any other further ado, let's just jump into this.
Here's the deal. The magic moment was when I looked at my 12 schmendricks, as the phrase goes, and they were so disheartened over what was going on. They were disheartened. They couldn't close rich people. I could, Danny could. Before that, we were closing average moms and pops. And I realized what was happening. And I realized in this one moment that I had a certain way of speaking that I had taught to Danny, because Danny was a natural salesman. It was a way of speaking that was allowing me to immediately take control of the conversation.
Boom. So if you've been in sales, you know those guys that can close $500 deals, 2K deals, 5K deals, 10K deals, but there's like a certain limit where if the number's a little bit over that, they just can't handle it. Right? And see it all the time. And maybe tonality is that one piece between you or the person that you're thinking of in that next level. So excited to get back into this.
At the heart of all influence, once you learn to control the linguistic encounter, you will be shocked at how easy it is to influence. Now, I'm not saying that when you control the encounter, you're doing the talking. That's not what I mean. In fact, it's the opposite. When you're in control, you're asking very smart questions, and it's the prospect that's doing the talking. You're gathering intelligence. But in those first few seconds, when you open up your mouth, you got 4 seconds. And in those first 4 seconds, if in those first 4 seconds, that's a brain fart, right? In those first 4 seconds.
4 seconds, guys, in case you didn't hear. 4 seconds.
Let me tell you what they are. You got 4 seconds of a conversation. 4 seconds. You got to
somebody put in the comments how many times he says 4 seconds.
Sharp as attack. It's got to come out right away. Number 2, that you're enthusiastic as hell.
All right. So 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, all jokes aside. So sharp, competence, intelligence is definitely important. As far as enthusiasm, it is important, but if you overdo it, then you'll lose trust, and the person on the other side is not going to believe that you're legitimate. They're just going to think that you're freaking pretending and bullshitting. It can actually work against you if you're overly enthusiastic. So the way that I like to look at it is just like one level above where they're at, right? So if they're excited, then I'm fucking excited too, as long as it's genuine and real for me, right? And if they're kind of low, then I'm just like a little bit like, you know, above them, right? So like to them, it feels authentic and attainable, right? But it's also attractive if someone has like just that bit more of like energy, enthusiasm, zest, right? As long as it comes off as like truthful and authentic.
Enthusiastic as hell. And number 3, and I said it before, and I'm going to say it 10 more times, and I'll make you say it out loud. You got to be perceived as an expert in your field. As what? A what? You want to be perceived as an expert. Say the word expert.
Let's go with Tony Robbins on him right now.
You gotta be perceived as an expert. You got 4 seconds to be perceived sharp, on the ball, enthusiastic, it must be good. Nothing sells like.
Yeah, and just to reinforce the 4 seconds for a first impression, when I was new to sales, one of my mentors said you had 3 freaking seconds. And once we worked on that initial introduction, I was setting at the time, and he came in and did it with the whole team. We literally tripled the set rate for like the whole team for a company that was already making millions a year. So yeah, the first impression literally just takes a few freaking seconds, and then it could be the difference from having momentum going into a conversation where they already like and trust you, want to open up from the start, or where they have their freaking guards up from the very beginning and you have to work multiple times harder just to move things along. So first 4 seconds is huge. Well, let's jump back into it.
Enthusiasm. And don't say, oh, people, I'm not talking about, oh my God, I'm not that enthusiasm. Like, it's so great. No, I'm talking about bottled enthusiasm. Enthusiasm that's just below the surface. It's a certain way of talking with a bit of urgency in your voice that says, wow, that shit must be good. It's not yelling and flailing your arms about like a moron. So I don't mean that. Sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, an expert in your field. We want to do business with experts. You get hurt, you got to go to a doctor. Who do you want to go to? The guy who graduated yesterday from medical school, or the guy who's been doing it for 20 years? Which one? 20 years. Which one? An expert. Bingo. You go get a haircut before an important occasion. Who are you going to? The guy who just graduated from beauty school, or the professional haircutter? Which one? The professional. Experts. Authority figures. It's a sad thing. Our parents, my mother, your mom, your dad, our parents told us, don't judge books by their covers. Who heard that? They did, and so do we. We do. Human beings judge books by their covers. We make snap decisions. We see someone, we size them up, we rip them apart, put them back together, and boom, either they're, on the ball and perceived the right way, an authority figure, an expert, or they're a dullard, like, Sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, an expert in your field. You got 4 seconds to do it. And how can you do it in 4 seconds? Well, it's not the words. I mean, think about it. What words could you really say in 4 seconds? Hey, John, listen, I'm sharp as a tack. They'd say, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? He's nuts. There are no words. There's no magic words. There are the right words to say, but how you really allow that to come across. How that comes across is 2 ways. And the first is through something called tonality. Your tonality. There are certain tones that we use. Now, in human communication, in matters of influence, there are 10 that we use again and again and again. And you watch me do it all night long, whether it's where I talk with certainty, or I talk with sincerity, or I say, well, it's a pretty reasonable thing to do in the reasonable man tone. There's all these certain tones, and when you use them at the right time, see, right now you use them by accident. You're like, when you talk, if you feel certain, you talk certain. You can actually use these tones on purpose, and you become incredibly persuasive just by that alone. Because when you use the right tonality, while you're speaking, and this is true of everybody, as I speak, you will narrate against me. You'll say, what the fuck is this guy? Is that true? And I agree. But if I speak without tonality, you'll start to narrate. If I use tonality, you'll zero in and say, what does he really mean by that? You start to hook into my tonality, and you give me control. It gives me control when I speak. If I spoke like this, you'd be like, oh my.
Yeah, so tonality is absolutely freaking game changing. It's literally 5 times more important than the words that you say. And I remember when I was just first starting to listen to advice on tonality and jumped in deep since then, like the amount that people pay attention and just how much people listen to you, trust you, engage with you, and that sort of thing, it can change so dramatically, so fast. In like just a few days of working on tonality, it can change everything. And it goes back to that saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And literally 5 times more important than the words you say is your tonality. So music to my ears, baby.
You'd be out, you'd be talking in your own head, but when I put the tonality on, it forces you to unconsciously consider, what do I really mean? What's he really trying to say? We try to give meaning to the tonality. Does that make sense, yes? Yes. It happens through tonality, and when you're in person, through body language. Certain ways we move our body, how we stand, how we shake hands, our eye contact. Not just how we move our body, but how we listen to other people. Bill Clinton, President Clinton, was the best. He would lie to us. We loved him anyway, because for that second when we saw him, he'd be like, I feel your pain. He was like great with getting into what's called what? Boom. Say the word. What's the word? Louder. What's the word? At the essence of all influence, you take control of the conversation, and then you must get into rapport.
Yeah, so for those of y'all who don't know what rapport is, you're obviously not that deep in sales, because if you've been in sales for a while, like you just hear it over and over again. But essentially it's that connection, it's that trust, right? And that like feeling of oneness that you get when you like somebody, you trust someone, the communication's flowing, that sort of thing. So basically, once again, getting into that is super important for sales, right? If people don't trust that they're going to get the results that they're looking for, they're not going to spend their time, money. They're not going to take the risk and take on the effort, right? And in order to build that sense of trust and connection and captivate people's attention, once again, tonality is 5 times more important than the words you say. And people can kind of speculate on numbers, but body language, from what I've seen, science say the vast majority of the time, is 7 times more important than the words you say. I actually have a video on each of these, once again, dissecting the best things I've ever learned from world-class teachers, including for the tonality one, a guy who's often regarded as the #1 voice coach in the world. So all that stuff's for free on YouTube. I don't charge sales reps ever. Aura does not charge sales reps. So let's get back into it.
You must get into rapport with the person. And how do you do that? Well, there's 2 things that must come across. Let me tell you what they are. Rapport is based on 2 core elements. Number 1, the prospect in his heart of hearts, unconsciously, he must be saying, you care. That you care about him, that there's something in your tone, an empathetic, sympathetic tone, your body language, your facial expressions, and your words, because let's talk about communication as a whole. There's 3 types. You have tonality, and you have body language, which by the way, watch I'll go over here. Let me just give you the division here. Tonality and body language make up about 90%. This is 45% tonality, 45% body language, and then 10% is the words. And there's different numbers based on which study you read, but they're all around the same. Tonality and body language is the bulk of communication. The words are easy. On a silver platter, you hand someone the words, they can memorize them. They're very simple language patterns. But what really influences, what people don't get, is that tonality and, like, see how I lowered my voice? It's important. This is really, tonality and body language. Look at my hands. The way it's ingrained in who I am at this point in my life. But when you just start doing this, what I do is that you make what's unconscious in you, as soon as it becomes conscious to you, you start to implement. And this is the unconscious part of the straight line. It's really, really powerful. So you have tonality, you have body language, and the words. And we hear about this thing about, charisma. Oh, Jordan's got charisma. He's got massive charisma. Oh, she doesn't. And people, it's like a quack. Like, oh, I don't have charisma. That's a duck-like mentality. Charisma is an entirely learnable skill. You You want to know what it is? How you do it? Charisma is made up of 3 things. Effective tonality. It's number 1. 2, appropriate body language. Number 2. Number 3, not saying stupid shit. That's the 3rd part, which could be the hardest part of all for a salesman, especially once they start getting further down the line, meaning as the sale goes on, which is why we do pay a lot of attention to the words that we say. We want to make sure that we understand what our language patterns are, how we accomplish the things we need to accomplish in a sales or a negotiation. We don't want to say stupid things, right? Number 1, they must think we care, and we should care, by the way, because you're crazy if you don't want, you're not trying to hurt someone. Number 2 is, I'm just like you.
Boom. So anyways, we got this cutting off right now, but yeah, I definitely think showing that you care, right, is very underrated in the sales space, right? Because once again, going back to that liking and trusting, right, especially the trust part, right? A lot of salespeople, they're just focused on making the commission, getting the sale, making the money, right? And that's fine. But if the person you're trying to sell to thinks that all you care about is getting their money, they're not going to want to open up to you. They're going to have their guards up, right? And it just makes everything harder, right? And if you're a half decent person or better, you're going to feel freaking empty inside and drained after a while if you actually don't feel like you're helping people, right? But on the flip side, when you not only care, but are able to make the person that you're chatting with feel cared for, which are 2 very different things, right? There's a difference between understanding what someone's saying and making someone feel understood. There's a difference about caring about someone and making someone feel cared about, right? Which I have other videos that go over that as well in the free sales series I have on YouTube. But essentially, if you can't make the person feel heard, understood, cared about, right? They're not going to like you. They're not going to trust you. And they need to trust you and be to listen to what you're saying when you say the product's going to solve their problem, or even when they open up about their problem, right? And to get the sale. So super important. And backing up a little bit, I mean, Jordan Belfort, obviously he's famous and potentially even more infamous, right? Because his business back in the day did rip a lot of people off, So at first I didn't want to hear anything from him because I was like, I want to just focus on people that are ethical, yada, yada, yada. But now I, first of all, love this video. Music to my freaking ears. Tonality is super underrated. Body language is super underrated, right? But I'm starting to like Jordan quite a bit now. He literally went into over $100 million of debt after going to jail. And instead of just saying like, my life's freaking over, he was just like, you know what? I'm going to freaking bounce back stronger. And now he's making over 20 million a year. His net worth went from like negative 100 million to positive over 100 million in like 5 to 10 years. I'm not sure when he got out of jail. So anyways, I got mad respect for him on that. And it seems like he's doing everything ethically this time, which is also super important. Otherwise, he's probably gonna go back to freaking jail again. But yeah, overall, I think this video was incredible. If you've never trained Tonality, like I said, I literally invested in the #1 sales coach in the freaking world, and I'm giving it away for free on YouTube. But if you don't want to hear me talk about it, no worries. Find somebody that you trust is going to help you take your tonality to a new level. And it's one of the biggest cheat codes to confidence, right? And also making people feel the things that you want them to feel, which goes way beyond sales, but having that ability, right, to have more influence on the way that you say things, right? Which, once again, I'll just ring it in your head, 5 times more powerful than any words that you can say, right? So if anything I could share from this freaking video is definitely study tonality, and believe it or not, body language is even more powerful. Once again, I have a video on that. Highly recommend for sales or just life in general, right? Because no matter what you're doing with your body, you are sending communications to people, right? And you can make people feel welcome. You can make people feel safe, or you can make people feel criticized and judged and insecure and all these things with your body. And if you've never studied those things, then you're doing it unconsciously, right? So highly recommend doing it, and it will just take your communication and confidence to a whole nother level. And then if you're in sales, once again, we are a sales recruiting company. We never charge sales reps ever. If you want to see the opportunities that are currently hiring right now, some of them have reps doing over $250,000 a year in the positions that we're recruiting for, right? So check out our website. And by the way, this is my first ever reaction video. So if it was a little rough around the edges, you were part of the original video. So thanks for watching, and let's run it up.